Right, you're still watching TVC Breakfast. We now take you through this very, very important conversation. Now, as insecurity continues to challenge communities across the country, the Senate says it is moving quickly to make state police a reality. Now, lawmakers have pledged to fast-track the constitutional changes needed to establish state policing, arguing that the centralized system could improve intelligence gathering and speed up responses to crime. The renewed push comes amid growing concerns over kidnapping, bandit attacks, and violent crimes, with many Nigerians calling for stronger and more localized security measures. Joining us for this conversation is security expert Dickson Osajie. Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Good morning.
Good morning. I love the energy. Nice to have you on the show this morning. Now we go straight into this conversation. We've been speaking about state police, if you ask me, for 20 years and counting. And this is something that people have said that we need state policing for what is happening now. When we talk about insecurity, we've seen the level of insecurity from school abductions, to church attacks. We can go on and on. And it seems like we need state police like yesterday. Although people say it may not be the final uhuru for us in terms of insecurity, but it's a step in the right direction. To know the fact that we're still talking about this for now, what do you think is the way forward for state policing in Nigeria? And as at when do you think that this will be fully implemented? It will leave just discussions to making sure that it is fully implemented. Over to you.
I think it should be implemented as such yesterday, because we've discussed about state policing for a very long time. The whole essence is to ensure that state governors have the power of autonomy to give directives to security commanders to ensure that they go before these criminals and ensure that they wipe them out with speed and momentum. But for me, I think the Senate should see this as a necessity, because the criminal elements are messing up the image of this great country, and as well messing up our mental state as well. I think you just said that you love my energy. The energy is, by the side. Every time we wake up and hearing about evil or terrible news is very disturbing. So this state policing is going to be a very good one for state governors, and as well ensure that they, carry out an assessment of all, the hot spots in their various states, so that they will not wait for crime to occur before they respond. It will give them an opportunity to be preventive in nature and also to be proactive. So I see it as a welcome development, and the state governors should start, rolling their sleeves to ensure that when Senate passes this bill, they should switch into action.
Yeah, exactly. But quickly, let me just touch on this, and I want you to touch on that for me as well. In terms of state policing, people have argued that, if there's state police, people will use them anyhow, talking about the governors. There's been that discussion. We're also talking about the financing of state policing as well. So I want you to touch that for me as well. Could that be some of the reasons why, we're scared of implementing it? Could it be finance? Could it be misuse of power? In your own opinion, what do you think, is the main reason why this is still, on the works, after we've been speaking about it for quite a long time now?
Fantastic question. Everything has its own advantages and disadvantages. Even the centralized policing system we are practicing at now also has its own advantages and disadvantages, and we are all seeing the disadvantages of the centralized policing system we are practicing. State policing system is also going to have its own disadvantages, but I think there's going to be we should have an effective, organogram in place to ensure that and also an effective board system in place to ensure that our state governors cannot just single-handedly, mess up or use them for political campaign. We all can see what is happening. Election is coming, and most of these political elements, leaders, will start, mismanaging our people, our youth, using them in the area of thuggery, ballot snatching, and all those things. And I think that's the issue of national security. And we must start addressing the use of thugs in electoral processes. So for me, the advantages outweighs the disadvantages. One of the advantages is that whenever there's a crime in progress, the state governors or the state police system will be able to respond with speed and momentum. They don't need to start sending signal to Abuja for the IG to also give them go ahead. Then also another advantage is that they'll be able to curtail crime, in progress, and ensure that most of these criminal elements labor in vain. What we have in our country is that these guys, they don't labor in vain. They labor swiftly, get what they want to get, and go to their comfort zone, relax, and start and negotiate with the Nigerian government. So the advantages outweighs the disadvantages. The advantage is that some of these leaders will want to, use them during election, campaign. And I also fear for, a state organized crime if we have this state policing system. But if we have an effective board management system in place, I tell you, the state governors will not be able to mismanage these guys.
Yeah.
Olamide.
Thank you so much, sir. Some people might argue that we are sort of running before we can walk. You know, what about community policing before full-on state policing? We've seen some community policing outlets like Amotekun, you know, be successful. We've seen some in the East as well with Tiger Base, and we were still finding our feet with that. Do you think that we should focus on more localized community policing before we try to entrench full-blown state policing? Also, I want to talk about the issue of financing here. You know, some states are really currently even struggling to pay basic salaries. Who is going to fund this, and how will that be dispersed?
Fantastic. Nigeria has the money to fund it, except maybe some guys that are talking about community policing. We're happy that state policing is about to be bettered from the federal policing system. Then the state policing will bet the community policing system. You understand what I'm saying? So what we are looking at is that once we have this effective state policing system, it will drop down to the community level. Amotekun are doing very well in Oyo State, and I also suggest that other states should start looking at, imbibing, introducing community policing from the grassroots, because that's where the crime takes place. Like the abduction in Oyo State, boils down to the community, and a lot of guys came around, carry out, hostile surveillance within the community, get their information, and also, abducted these children.
Very quickly, Mr. Osajie, for my audience, can you make a distinction for us? What are the main distinctions between community policing and state policing? What will be the different mechanisms that distinguish these two concepts from one another?
From the community level, the local government's chairman will be in charge, from the state level, the state governors will also be in charge. Now, community policing boils down to the community and also ensure that those people within community area, the rural areas, have some security measures in place to protect this community, because most of the vulnerable areas are in the community level, and as well absence of, development within those community, and as well absence of security presence within those community. From the state level in Lagos, we're all enjoying federal policing might, and as well moving out daily without being intimidated or being coerced. So the distinction is that from the community level, it has to border from the people within the community, and as well it could as well be as a voluntary, policing system from the community level, whereby you can also pay these guys stipends every month, and what they should be doing is to get intelligence. Not that you're going to arm the community. No, you're not going to do that. You're only going to use them from intelligence gathering. If you move around like you do in the international community, you see some guys on bike moving around. Majority of those guys moving around with bikes, they are community policing security agents. What they do is that they are gathering information around those communities. So for me, I think it's going to be a welcome development. Once we have the state policing, then we should have an effective community policing system that will support the state policing system and also support the federal policing system, so that we'll be able to bring Nigeria to a state of peace.
All right, Mr. Osajie, my questions are two-pronged, and it's quite an interesting conversation we're having regarding state policing, because it's been an age-long conversation. This state policing conversation, especially in the National Assembly, is tied to the constitutional amendment, and I want us to look at it from the constitutional aspect, because it has to be addressed at first. What exactly do you think should be the safeguards that the lawmakers must have at the back of their mind to ensure that this state police framework, ensure accountability, protect citizens' rights, also prevent jurisdictional conflict between federal and state security agencies, especially with the Land Use Act, which is exclusive, currently, to the state governors. That's on one hand. On the other hand, we've been talking about true federalism, returning to the 1963 Republican Constitution, where we say we should have, true federalism, devolving of power. Do you see this as, a kind of conversation that we are trying to address, the Nigeria's, true federalism concept, where we have state government also controlling, the state police, vis-a-vis the states, the forest guards that have recently been, that have been deployed across the states? And exactly looking at all of those things without necessarily addressing the root cause of insecurity in Nigeria.
Fantastic bombardment from your side. I think from the National Assembly, what they should start looking at, the strategic center of gravity of the state policing, that is the leadership component, and ensure that they bring it down to its operational strategy and also tactical strategy and also implementation strategy. Because first of all, we need to have an effective leadership within that state policing system. Is the state commander going to be reporting to the IGP, that needs to be addressed. Will they be taking out orders from the IGP capital? No. Will also come to deployment strategy, tactical strategy. What arms and ammunition do you want to give these guys? Because if you want to go and start giving, if you want to start giving them then gun or whatever type of a low, arms and ammunition you're giving them, it's going to be a suicide mission for these guys, because the threat we have on hand presently is an existential threat and also a societal threat. And you see these guys brandishing a lot of hard weapon, MGs, and a lot of, military-grade equipment. So they should also look at the area of equipment and also management of that equipment, so we don't have a situation whereby these state policing guys will start, organizing, having a form of, criminal gangs from their own, state area. So it has to, from there, come down to as well, accountability. There must be an accountability line from the horizontal and vertical plane, because most times what is happening in our country is that there's no accountability. Somebody come as a commander, after his tenure, he just hand over, go away. Nobody's ready to ask him about how these arms were procured, the equipment, and also salaries of these guys. Then they should also look at motivation as well. Don't go and create a state policing and think you can start paying them stipend the way you're paying the Nigerian policing system. These guys will be demotivated, demoralized, and also demotivated. They should also look at the motivation, their housing system, their their remuneration, and as well their health system. Ensure that these guys are highly motivated, so that they will not be able to take a departure from the normal and start doing things that are not right within the state. So I think that's my own response for you in the area of government area. Then for me, they're talking about what was your next question?
Yeah, so the other prong is the one talking about the root cause of the insecurity, terrorism, etc. Some people have been saying that it's due to poverty, unemployment rate, cost of living, etc., etc. That if that is not addressed, it could just be a knee-jerk approach to solving this problem on the surface.
Oh, fantastic question. I think I appreciate you for this question. No child is born a criminal. And that is the truth. I will tell you that. According to Sigmund Freud, we all have what we call the eros mindset and the thanatos mindset, the god of evil and the god of love mindset. So most people, get messed up within the society, and we need to start looking at societal factors and as well the social contracts between the state and the government. And I tell you, there's a lot of governmental neglect, from the state and the government as well. Most of these child you see on the streets, I have said it on Money for, they are potential threats to the government. So if you want to create state policing and you don't want to address the root cause analysis of most of this criminal issue, it's going to be a disturbing situation. A guy in the United States, Mr. Booth, find himself in the court for a criminal offense, and coincidentally, the judge was his classmate. And the judge said, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "Yes." Did you attended XYZ school? Oh, the guy busted into tears. Say, "Yes, that was my secondary school." And the judge said, "This guy was the best child in the school those days, very brilliant, and one of the nicest person." What went wrong? Societal value. So we need to start looking at our society, our environment as well, because parental absenteeism, like in the north as we speak, you have a lot of almajiri. Every morning you see them going to the house of these politicians to go and line up for bread and butter. You are damaging and destroying the future of this country, and also these children tomorrow will be a threat to the state when this criminal element tends to go and employ them. And that is why most of this Boko Haram, one of their employment methodology is hitting at the the low-level class Nigerians. So we must address the constitutive factors, why people goes to crime, and also address the political factors as well. If we do all this and ensure that Nigeria starts, taking care of its people, we cannot have a state whereby we have leaders who just think of themselves and their people and start embezzling Nigerian money. And so we should have an effective policy in place that whoever embezzles the Nigerian funds should be seen as a traitor and also a treasonable offense, because we cannot have a country whereby our political leaders keep on embezzling our national resources and enriching themselves and allow the people to suffer. That is why crime has been flourishing, and we must mitigate this menace.
All right. Sure.
Yeah, I'm happy you mentioned the issue of the street kids, Almajiri, in connection with the security challenges we are facing in the country. We already know that the issue of insurgency and terrorism are being dealt with by the military. We've seen recent successes in relation to that. We also know that localized instability is being driven, by kidnapping and banditry. We've also seen how the government and military operatives are responding to that. And in addition to that, we also know that the government is responding on the issue of causes of terrorism. It's not just to be tough on terrorism. We've seen so many government concurrent programs, trying to deal with some of this issue. For instance, the huge investment in infrastructure, road construction, it will not only lead to new infrastructure, but also creates thousands and thousands of jobs. In addition to that, there are also steps on job creation, poverty reduction, the issue of now linking it to the issue of human capital development and the issue of Almajiri. Government have invested so much in that. But on this issue of street kids, what do you think we can do? Because one, the street kids are more or less human resources for terrorism. If care is not taken, I hope they are not. Secondly, how do we ensure combined and even development in the educational sector without ensuring that these street kids, are one way or the other, engaged? Don't forget that we've actually had a nomadic education scheme in the past, and it didn't work. So with a view to ensure better security, when we have state policing system, how do we respond to the challenges of the issue of about 18 or 20 million, street kids? And I think within that context, with a view to, resolve, to deprive, terrorists or kidnappers the opportunity to use them.
Well, fantastic. I think the government has a lot to do. We are suffering from multi-dimensional security threats as we speak, and also education is very important. Why did I say so? Because I see sometimes last week or last month, these terrorist guys were asking Nigerians to send their account number for them to do a giveaway. And we saw a lot of guys, Nigerians, sending their account number to these terrorists. Hey, guys, you are a terrorist if you do that, because when anything goes wrong, the state security government will pick you up, as an accomplice. And when it comes, don't say the Nigerian police are brutal or the Nigerian police are senseless or they are, abusing your human rights. Because when these terrorist guys begins to ask you for your account number, they are trying to implicate each and every one of you. And those of you that have sent your account number to these terrorists, I would strongly advise, go to the nearest police station now and inform them that, hey, I collected this money from this guy, so I didn't know, but Mr. Dickson has advised, I'm about to refund it. Because when the DSS starts swinging into operations and start picking most of these guys, you are going to explain if you know them or not. Because if you don't know them, you don't have business with them, why would you send your account number to them? So please take this as a very serious advisory to ensure that you don't get into trouble today or tomorrow. Then in the area of education, our government needs to start seeing how we can, improve in our educational system, because education is also the bedrock of any given the country. If these terrorists keep on attacking our institution, they are attacking the future of this great country. 46 students, we abducted last year. A teacher, Matthew, was beheaded. Their offense was being Nigerians, which is very wrong. So what I will advise the government to do is that they should adopt the Safe School Declaration that was, signed in Oslo, Norway in 2015. In 2015, Nigeria was one of the signatories to the Safe School Declaration. And this Safe School Declaration has its own protocols. There are about 10 to 15 or 20 protocols within this Safe School Declaration. Yeah. So all schools, the Ministry of Education, should send a circular to all schools within the country and ensure every school, both private and public, adopt the Safe School Declaration protocol. The only essence of that protocol is to ensure that students and teachers go to school without being intimidated or being co-opted and come back safely. So that will be very okay.
Mr. Dickson, probably you didn't get my question on the issue of the Almajiri, that is the street kids. We know the federal government has done a fantastic job in terms of students' loan, for people who desire tertiary education. But in terms of these kids, they are not even in any school, no primary, nothing. They are not even engaging with the educational system. So my worry is that these kids will become sources of or human capital for terrorism, which is what we don't want. What can the government do to ensure that these kids are taken off the street and engage, in education? That's my question. I know government has done a lot.
Yes, I'm also responding to your question, because if you have terrorists picking our people from the school, they won't go to school. Everybody's going to be at home. So if we have the Safe School Declaration addressed, then the government should start looking at how to ensure that they sponsor academics. I school in Sokoto State. I was born in Borno State, Maiduguri. I grew up in Sokoto State. I grew up in Zaria before I joined the Nigerian military in 1998, before I disengaged after some few years of service. So in Sokoto State then, our education was free during the General Babangida administration, then I can remember. So we go to school free, we get fed in the morning, breakfast, and in the afternoon we get fed for lunch. And this, method was a very good method then. So I would advise the state governors to also start seeing how they keep funds for public schools to ensure that every school feed their people, feed their students, and ensure that we introduce the, morality in our institution.
You brought out something that is very important, and I believe that it's quite right that we touch what you spoke on. We spoke about the fact that it's not just about bringing state police. We need to make sure that these people are highly motivated for them to do a good job. And I think that is a very, very important conversation, because as of now, I will speak boldly and say and I say again, some police officers are still on the road begging radically, and it is a problem, because it seems like these people as well, they do not have money to feed their families, so they will do anything. So it's not just of us bringing state police because we know we need it. What are we doing to also make sure that these state police, we give them what they duly deserve, so that they will have the moral to fight what we exactly want them to do? You brought out that conversation, and it's very important. I think that is something that we really, really need to highlight if we want the state police to work, because it's not just about bringing state police, it's about it standing the test of time.
Excellent. Motivation is the driving factors. Last month, 2 months ago, I went to American Embassy and I needed to make some photocopies. I went into Ikeja cantonment, and coincidentally, I just saw somebody calling my name, Dickson. And this guy happens to be my classmate. And I saw that his hand has been amputated in the battlefield some years ago. And I said, what went wrong? He said, it was during the engagement of Boko Haram. And the Nigerian Army to date, 65 battalion, they've not replaced that hand. And I said, if they don't do that, I will do it. That's motivation. That's what we're talking about. Any officers and men that put their life on the line to protect the territorial integrity of this great country must be protected from all angles. They must be well paid. They must be, well fed in the battlefield. So coming down to the state level, we must also ensure that we put in medical system in place. Don't allow these guys that come to serve the state, to take care of themselves when they get injured during engagement with this criminal element. Have a very beautiful medical system in place, whereby in case, God forbid, anyone gets injured or gets shot, he must be treated swiftly and also be compensated. And the monetary value must be very okay, so that somebody will not come and say, hey, guy, you have the gun with you. Let's go and organize some kidnap gangs. All those kind of, flimsy mistakes from the state. So the state must set out effective funds, put in funds in place to ensure that they cut off every opportunity that these guys will, want to say, hey, this is the reason why, or this was the reason why I took a departure from the norm. And I think if we have that in place, that would be very nice. But from that, the federal system as well, we must start seeing how we take care of our police officers. Like you already said, you are very correct. Sometimes when I'm coming back home, I feel sorry for our police officers. These guys put their life every day for you and I to move around without being intimidated or being coerced. So the federal government on its own should also see how they have an effective or a very robust, package for these great officers and men. They are trying their best. My sister, I will tell you the truth. Because you can't put your life on the line every day and now, chasing the terrorists you never created or formed, and you're not well paid and well motivated. Now, the least soldier is collecting about 100,000 naira. That is a very, very disgusting situation. We should see how we can take at least the minimum. A soldier can even be paid 1 million naira per month. I know how much my friends in the United States collect, and also in Germany and other countries. So let's see how we standardize our military payments and police payments in line with international standards. Nigerians have the money. Nigeria have the money, to say, and we can do that if we, project. And that is going to assist in crime prevention.
What a very beautiful place to leave the conversation. Thank you so much. Really great insights on the show this morning. It's our pleasure to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Have a fantastic week ahead as well.
All right. Thank you.